Hi Bianca, welcome to
Hey,
episode
Kamyar.
6. How you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to episode 6 of the PSI Method podcast.
If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe.
Yes, please do. It really means a lot to us.
Yeah, and thank you for watching and for being in
Yes.
conversation with us. So we were talking before the show about the question of, do we think or are we thought at? And this is a conversation that you had the other day with a client, and I just had with my amazing wife Brigitte this morning over a cup of coffee. And this is really at the heart of the PSI method, and it's at the heart of a lot of different wisdom traditions. I can think as far back as the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna is having this conversation with Prince Arjuna on the battlefield. And he talks about these three forces called the gunas, Guna. And these gunas are qualities of energy, and they can make you either feel sluggish and attached to the world, or excitable and fiery and reactive, or more virtuous. And for example, in the Ayurvedic tradition, they use this concept of gunas to talk about these processes. And then also in physiology, we talk about the autonomic nervous system. So we talk about having a rest and digest nervous system, and then you have a sympathetic nervous system, which makes you alert and tense, and then gets you to take action. And this is called the law of three. And the law of three is about how all things manifest or occur. And when it comes to thinking, we think we're thinking, but really, like a dream, where we find ourselves, nobody steps into a dream. You just find that you're in a dream that's occurring.
Mhm.
It's like turning on an old-fashioned television where it would just take a second for all the cathodes and the tubes to warm up, and the picture would gradually appear, and the next thing you know, you're in the middle of a broadcast.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times when we are when as we say, a thought comes in our head, it pops in our head. It came to me, we say,
Mhm.
because there is a thought cloud around us, which is part of our own internal dialogue. And then there is the collective thought of humanity in the earth, in the mental plane. And the same thing is true at the emotional level. And these thoughts are constantly coming into our field.
Mhm.
And we have a pre-existing set of beliefs, attitudinal complexes, ways that we react to things that we think or that are
Mhm.
thought into us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, really, we're not thinking, we're constantly reacting to the thoughts that are coming into our field.
Mm. And how we react, is that the stuff that's in the astral and mental plane? Because, like a lot of the work that we've done, I've experienced intense suffering for whatever reason. And you've told me they're coming from these other planes of my belief systems, maybe experiences from past lives,
Right?
etc. Because
Yeah,
like two people can have the same thought pop into their mind, but their reaction to it is completely different. One could be neutral and one could be suffering negative.
exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So things simply are. When we say that something is good, or we say that something is bad, or we are resisting or anticipating something,
Mhm.
some type of harm or some type of benefit or gain, and we get excited. This is all our reactions to these thoughts that are coming into our field. And when they come into our field, they're filtered through our pre-existing belief systems,
Mhm.
and they start to have a life of their own. That's why we catch ourselves daydreaming
Mhm.
or catastrophizing
Mhm.
or just getting lost in a series of thoughts. And you say,
Mm-hmm.
well, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're looking at a hat while you're window shopping, and the next thing you know, you're thinking about the death of Princess Diana because she used to wear all sorts of fancy hats.
Mm-hmm.
Then you think, oh my God, is my boyfriend cheating on me? And then it just like goes on from there.
Oh, I
And you're
know.
and you're not thinking these things. You're riding a thought train.
Okay, but where does the thought, what I don't understand is what is the convergence of the outside thoughts and then your inside stuff?
Well, the convergence is that it's constantly coming in. Just like you don't power the sun, you don't turn on the sun in the morning. The sunlight streams in through the window.
But are the
You're
thoughts
just
like
there to
some
witness.
other like energy body coming in? Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, I don't know, is like gonna come from anywhere or it's coming from other people? Like somebody tells you something?
It's all those things.
Is it somebody's just like in the atmosphere?
So let's talk about what's inside and we'll talk about what's outside. So
Okay.
inside
Is
there
hell. No.
is it
It's my
could
own
be
personal Dante's Inferno. Okay.
it could be, or it
You know
also
it is a
could
lot
it
of the
could be a
time.
paradise. But inside of us is a series of beliefs and attitudes and pathways of emotional response. And where does this come from? It comes from our past lifetimes. So through our karma, through our previous experiences, our subconscious personality has come to certain conclusions about things. And so, for example, let's say somebody is exploring aromatherapy in this lifetime, and they're like, I'd really like to heal people with aromatherapy or with Reiki or whatever the case is. But then the thought of healing other people and letting people know, hey, I'm a healer. I want to help you,
Mhm.
creates such a feeling of constriction in them. And they're afraid to start a healing practice, to let people know. They're afraid that they might not get the results, and what are people going to say? And when you look into their past lifetimes, you'll see that there was a lifetime where they were, let's say, a village healer, and they were attacked for being a witch, and they were harmed in some grave way. And they've carried this belief that if I seek to heal and I present myself to society, I'm going to get hurt. So they keep having a thought, which is the desire to heal, and that comes up from an unmet need, let's say in their female self. But then there's a fear from their male self that they're going to get hurt. And these reactions are happening, these processes are happening subconsciously, and consciously, it's just rising to your awareness that it's happening. And most of the time, it's not even in your awareness. What happens is you experience something else, like a physical ailment, like maybe you have a pounding heart rate, or you injure yourself, or let's say you get a bad cold and you're not able to smell. I've
Mhm.
actually had several cases of doctors who were completing their training in anesthesiology and they developed a hand tremor. And you can't work as an anesthesiologist if you have a hand tremor. You can't squeeze the bag to help the
Yeah.
patient breathe while they're under anesthesia. You can't put in an IV. You can't put in a breathing tube.
Wow.
So there are all these internal factors that are going on.
Mhm.
And this is just if you lived in some type of, I don't know, thought blocking cage and there was no external world, you'd still have all these internal things going on. And
Mhm.
as an outer self, you're not thinking these thoughts.
Mhm.
You're hearing them be thought.
Mhm.
But in addition to this, you have the external world, and other people have their own thoughts, and they're living in their own worlds. And individually, they radiate out those thoughts and their emotional reactions to those thoughts.
Oh, yes.
And then you have the collective thought process of humanity. And then you have all the extra earth influences, like the rays that are coming from different constellations, or the upgrading energy that's coming from the sun. And so you have these a thought field, it's usually about here, and it is just maintaining its own internal dialogue because it wants to exist. And the more it clings to something that it sees in the environment, the more that it responds to something, the more it lives and exists. And the if you've ever tried to meditate and you found your consciousness leaving center to the left or the
Mm-hmm.
right, it's being drawn into your own thought cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like we don't breathe, most of the time we're breathed
Mm-hmm.
by the physical body because and the body self because it has its own autonomic nervous system, it has its own set points, it knows how to breathe for itself. Actually, the biggest problem we have is forcing the body to breathe in a way that it doesn't want to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the same way, like a dream, we just find ourselves in the middle of a thought. I mean, if you sit down right now and say, I'm going to meditate on problem X and try to solve it, it's going to be really hard because you don't know how to think. And
PSI taught me how to think. Now I sit with all myself and we have a meeting.
yes, so
And
now
that's
we know
greatly
how to converse and how
yes.
to listen to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But really, true thought is coming at the level of soul and our high self, our solar angel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why meditation is probably the single most important tool that we have for the inner work and for harmonizing ourselves. Because the time that we are the most real is when we are quiet and centered and are able to attune to our high self and soul.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that doesn't just have to happen when we're in meditation or sitting on the ground. It can happen when we're in the shower. It can happen while we're taking a walk. It can happen at any moment. But the willingness to recognize when that moment is happening
Mm-hmm.
is what gives us that aha, that discovery of a higher realm of knowledge that we're looking for. And so most of us are caught in being reactive rather than being active. And if we're reactive, then we don't have agency. And we want to have agency. We want to become the masters of our destiny in partnership with our soul and our high self. And in order to do that, we need to learn to slow down and become more quiet and to become more aware.
I'm with you on all those things.
Yeah.
I am with you on all those things.
And that's why the PSI method is really quite simple because just standing in line somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
you can do the PSI work.
Mm-hmm.
Just start to observe your breathing and start to quiet the chatter. Stop analyzing and criticizing and judging somebody else's appearance or how noisy the cafe is or what the
Mm-hmm.
barista is wearing or any of
Mm-hmm.
these other things.
Well, what I found is that the more I have worked with myself, the easier I find that to do. So where I would maybe be more irritable out in the world or maybe going to judgment, now that I have a relationship with all of myself, I just find that that's quieted down a fair amount.
Yeah. And also as an outer self, you're not clinging or taking ownership of the thought or the emotional
Mhm.
response. It's just like if any of our listeners have raised children with babies, I mean, when a baby's crying, you don't get angry at the baby and you don't think, "Oh, I'm crying." No, that's not your crying. And
Yeah.
you just go through a list. Is the baby wet? Is the baby cold? Is the baby hot? Is the baby hungry?
Hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. Or thirsty. And
Mhm.
you just systematically say, okay, what do you need? Because
Mhm.
the crying is not actually what they need. It's letting you know that there's an unmet need.
Yes.
And so as these thoughts from the collective thought of humanity or the collective thoughts of our family or our nation or our individual thoughts
Mhm.
are coming into our thought field, and then our subconscious selves are having a reaction, instead of clinging to that thought and getting involved in it, we can take a moment and say, remember yourself, I am. And then in that moment of centering, ask the subconscious self that you've developed a relationship with, what do you need? And
Mhm.
focus on that.
Mhm. Yes.
I heard a great lecture once about the life of Moses and his struggles with Pharaoh. So when Moses returned to Egypt to set for the Jews to be the Israelites to be freed, he kept focusing on a very simple message, which is set my people free. And Pharaoh kept trying to change the subject. He's like, I'm a god. Uh, you should bow down to me. I'm going to build a giant tower and climb up it and look at your god and see how tough he is. And he just kept trying to change the subject. And Moses wasn't getting attached or he wasn't getting drawn in
Mhm.
distraction. He was focused on what he needed to do. And
Mhm.
he stuck to that. And we have a mission too, which is to
Mhm.
set ourselves free. And we can't be caught in these unimportant squabbles with other
Mhm.
people. And everything is unimportant. Because unless
Yeah.
you're squabbling about who's more loving, I guess.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know where this is going to go, but I was having a tough time, I don't know, a couple days ago with this hand injury and this ankle injury that I've been having. And, I can't play the drums and I'm catastrophizing and going down all these terrible paths. And I had asked in August of last year, I had been in a ceremony and my intention was liberation. And as you know, it's been quite a year for me of a lot of struggle. And I'm walking around the house being so pissed because I was in so much suffering because of the stories that were being told. And I was like, I asked for liberation, and this is the path. This is the path there. Because I really believe, I don't know, tell me they're right. Like, I have to really confront a lot of these thinking patterns that are creating so much suffering in me, but I really have to confront them, I feel like, in order to release them. And it's just, when things don't go my way in certain ways that are not as easy to release, like somebody irritating me out in the world, when it's something that's so confronting to one of my identities that I believe I need to survive, or just to be a drummer right now. It's been really, really hard. And it's that struggle that I'm trying to remember is the pathway there.
Well, the struggle exists because we're still attached to ego
Mhm.
identity. We have thought fixations.
Mhm.
But I mean, basically, when you ask for liberation, it's kind of like saying, oh, wait, I have to take off the chains to be free. I didn't know it'd have to be so hard. It's kind of like I am so hungry and somebody brings you food and you're like, wait, I have to put this in my mouth
Do
and move
this?
my gob up and down and
Gosh,
wait,
how dare you?
the next thing you're gonna tell me I have to swallow it too. I mean, look, the waiter's not a mother bird to like regurgitate it in your mouth. You got to do the work, sister.
Will you please show my food for me? Chew my
Exactly.
spiritual work food. I don't want to do it.
exactly.
Yes. But in
And
that moment, I do feel like I was like, this is the path. This is what you wanted. You got it. This is the work. It's not working against you, it's working for you.
well, the great poet of mystical love, Hafez, the Iranian poet, the very first lines of his very first poem in his collection of poetry on divine love is the path of love seemed easy at first, but then the troubles beset us.
So, so brilliant.
Yeah.
Ah.
And so this is the path that we choose. And the good news is that liberation leads to liberation, as Gurdjieff would say.
Mm.
And what happens is really, there's a long period of time where it feels like a lot of struggle. And what we're doing is a process of negation because we're learning how to not do things. We're learning how to unlearn
Mhm.
impressions that we've received from our parents, from our
Mhm.
house of worship, from our society, through our language and
Mhm.
what language says about possibilities.
Mhm.
And it is challenging, but those who persist will see that you cross this threshold, and then all of a sudden, the moments of elevation, the moments of joy and bliss, they last longer and they come more frequently the further you go along.
Is that a money back guarantee statement? Because I think everybody listening is going to want to know when you're going to owe me a lot of money at the end of this if this doesn't work out. But I
Definitely.
believe you.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my
I do know
experience.
this. And I have, from, yes, me 10 years ago to me now, I will say, I do feel that's my experience. Yes. Most days I feel some level of peace and contentment and in touch with something greater than myself that feels, beautiful.
Yeah.
But man, those thought forms are really,
Well, the thing that's greater than yourself that you're in touch with is yourself with a capital S. And the lesser thing is the lower self. It's the egoic self.
Mhm.
Monitor had a great sense of humor at times, and they coined a phrase called OGE, which is ego spelled backwards. And what they had said is that, ego, from their perspective, ego is the resistance to opening to life and love.
Mm.
And so what we call ego, can
Mhm.
come from any of the selves.
Mhm.
But OG is a curiosity and an openness to
Mm.
growing and embracing the fullness of life.
Mm.
And so when you find yourself saying, oh, gee, I wonder what would happen if I forgave this person instead of held a grudge against them. That,
That is brilliant. I didn't know where you're going with that. I was like, OG, like original gangster? Where's he
right.
gonna
Yeah.
go?
Not OG, OGE. It's
OG.
OGE, like, oh, gee.
OG.
Yeah.
OG. What might this mean? OG. How might this be working for me and not against me? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And, I think that it's like when Jesus says in the Gospels to be as innocent as doves and as clever as snakes. The innocence of doves or the innocence of children is a genuine curiosity,
Mhm.
an openness to a non-deterministic outcome.
Mhm.
It's basically what we call play. Child's play is that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of OG going on.
I feel like so much of creativity is also that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just like, let's try to play this song or let's take out some paint and I don't know, let's see what happens.
yeah,
Yeah. And that feels so good. And I do feel like it allows for magic.
yeah.
Yeah. Unexpected things. I will say, so this injury made it so that I couldn't play my drums last week. And what ended up happening was an impromptu band practice that happened on the driveway where we played songs acoustic and I can kind of tap the bongos with two fingers and use a shaker. We'd never done that before. And I was sitting there under the stars with my bandmates like, if I didn't injure my hand, would we have ever done this? And they were like, let's add some acoustic songs to our set. And I was like, you know, I was just open to, okay, let's try something new. And everybody else was like, let's try something different. And we had such a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this question. Do we need any ego, or is the goal to eventually not have an ego?
Well, I would say that that question really comes from a
The
therapeutic.
ego? No,
Well,
I'm kidding.
it
What you
could, but it definitely comes from, I think, a therapeutic lens,
mean?
and I think it's a type of baggage from a Freudian perspective
Hmm.
to even pose the question that way,
Hmm.
because we don't. I would say that we don't have ego. Ego is a phenomenon.
Hmm.
It's not a thing that we have. It's not an actual construct.
Hmm.
You know, it's like saying, do we really need a shadow or one day will we get rid of it? I mean, what is a shadow? It's just
Phenomenon.
it's a phenomenon when light hits a solid object.
Yes.
So it's only there because the body is resisting the light. It's not letting it pass through.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like yeah, ego has become kind of this concept, but it does. It feels sort of like concrete. It feels like a thing. Like this ego, it's got like it's like a brain with eyeballs or something. And it's not, it's a phenomenon.
it's a
Yeah.
phenomenon, but you know, there was like a neuroscience researcher named Hebb, and Hebb's law is that neurons that fire together wire together.
Hmm.
So the more you react in a certain way, the more you react in a certain way.
Hmm.
And that those patterns of reaction are called an engram.
Hmm.
And the responses are called engrammatic. And if you've ever turned on your computer, that's an engrammatic response. Because all you're doing is pressing a start button.
Hmm.
And then the computer is doing all these processes in a row
Hmm.
to turn on the computer, to pull up certain programs, to connect you to Wi-Fi. You don't have to tell it to do all things. It's already locked in. All you did is press the button.
Hmm.
Well, you know who's pressing our buttons? Everyone around us, including ourselves. We keep pressing all these buttons and we have all these thought patterns and these emotional responses to the thought patterns. And that's why we're reactive.
Hmm. One of my
Yeah.
favorite quotes is I'll tell people, they'll be like, why does my mother still upset me? You know, I'm 40 years old. And I'm like, they installed your button. That they know how to press it.
Yeah. But
We've
really
also installed
the
our own button.
question,
Yeah.
huh? Go
We've
ahead.
also installed our own buttons.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because the language we use reveals how disempowered we are. It's like, you know, it's like telling the jailer, "Will you close the cell already and lock it?" I mean, but you're complaining about being in a prison. I mean, to say, why is my mother so annoying? Why does she still bother me? Isn't the question, why are you letting your mother
Yes.
bother you when you have agency? When you could have agency,
Mm-hmm.
you could release the clinging.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we ask the question really determines the outcome because if we ask a disempowering question, we're going to get a disempowering response, which is my mother has to change.
Mm-hmm. And that's never going to happen because that's not in our control. I mean, it may happen, but man, if you focus on that, you're going to spend a long time feeling powerless.
Yeah, because it's like pushing on a wet sponge to get it to move,
Mm-hmm.
or it's like pulling on a bull's horn and asking it to lay down like a lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, the empowerment comes by what we do in ourselves and how we start to dismantle these limiting beliefs that we've been hanging on to. So when we have this incoming statement, like mom saying, "Oh, is that what you're doing with your hair now? Interesting."
Telepathic, I get that question.
Right?
No, not anymore, but I did for a long
Right?
time.
It's like, well, at least I have one daughter that looks normal. I mean, people are going to say what they say,
Hmm.
but our agency is how we react.
Yes.
And because those reactions are instantaneous, we don't have that agency.
Hmm.
Every morning, I mean, it's a work in progress, but every morning, part of my like daily affirmations and rituals is to remember that people are reactive. And
Hmm.
if I get annoyed that someone else is reactive, then I'm reactive too, because my annoyance is a reaction to their reaction.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if I'm also reactive, then I have nothing to complain about regarding their behavior because I'm just doing the same thing in a different way.
Yes.
So I think that being less reactive saves us energy and it
Hmm.
lets us take that energy and apply it in a creative way to our growth.
Yes. Yeah, you're reminding me of a passage in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that says, whenever I find something unacceptable, it's because there's something within me that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And that has helped me greatly.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yes. Let me ask you this question. This can go into a whole long conversation. And we've talked a little bit about, 12 steps before. The first step of AA or any of the 12-step programs is, right, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, people, places, and things, and that it makes our life unmanageable. And it's interesting because, you're saying, the statement about like, well, if your mother installed your buttons so they know how to press them, that does make you feel, right, a person sort of feel powerless in a way that I think I agree is, maybe not helpful. And yet, it's interesting to me that first step is about admitting powerlessness. And yet, I found that I began to feel more empowered by admitting that I was powerless over certain things.
Would you like me to comment on AA and this approach?
Yes, because I thought this was interesting when we had this talk a while back.
Well, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine who was from the villages of South Lebanon. He said, growing up, I was such a hellion, such a mischievous boy, and my father used to hit me so much. And I thank God for such a father because that's how I grew up to be a fine young man. I didn't doubt the sincerity of what he was saying.
Mhm.
But that moment, and that was 20 years before I even studied PSI. But what I understood from that is that there's a certain type of mental judge self, and oftentimes a male self, who feels that punishment or
Mm,
an admission of some type of um, hopeless guilt,
mm,
uncorrectable fault,
mhm,
actually feels liberating because the constraints that puts you in feels liberating.
mm,
So imagine it this way. Imagine that someone uh, was in a very fast car on a very rainy night and driving on a very windy mountainous pass.
mhm.
And they're swerving between the two lanes, one going, one coming.
Yeah.
And there's no guardrail. That feels so scary.
Mhm,
And for that driver who is not changing the speed of their driving or changing
mhm,
the car they're driving, they just keep going even though the conditions are very dangerous,
mhm.
to then put them in something like a go-kart or like those
Mhm.
bumper cars, they have the electric
Yes.
pole and you can't go far and you can't leave the perimeter
Yes.
and you have a bumper. That
Yes.
seems liberating to have all these constraints
Hmm. Yes. A
because
level of containment.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's a level of containment for a type of mental judge self or male self that accepts these limitations as what they deserve
Mm-hmm.
and as a way to keep themselves from harming other people. So it works. It works for some people. And
Hmm.
it's for people who have a configuration of their subconscious personality that needs
Hmm.
that. So I don't deny its value. I mean, I see it. But for people who would be interested in agency and developing a higher sense of healing and wholeness, that path alone would prove to be limiting
Hmm.
because the problem is not the alcohol. The problem is the sense of self-hatred and unworthiness
Hmm.
that is temporarily drowned out with the alcohol. But if someone's not willing or doesn't feel safe or capable of exploring and letting go of that narrative, then I suppose that starting with this first statement from AA could be a
Hmm.
life-changing event. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
I mean, I've done a lot of different processes and now I've and interventions and I've landed here with you and PSI. And I don't know if I would have been, we'll never know. I don't know if 10 years ago I would have been ready to hear this. I mean, I guess not. It didn't show up in my life yet. So I do feel that there's value in, right, a lot of different types of, interventions. This to me just seems like, oh, such a new and powerful way that I found such profound results with, but I don't know if I would have been able to metabolize it maybe, 10 years ago when I was swerving around, in a car. Maybe needed guardrails. So,
Well, even in I mean, just like I was saying earlier, a lot of the work that you do in the beginning is about containment and it's
mm,
about managing harmful behavior before
mm,
you can get to a level of stability to develop helpful
mhm,
behavior or constructive behavior.
mhm,
It's just that the time to get to the constructive behavior is a lot shorter.
mhm,
It's like when you met your mental judge self.
mhm,
I mean, we didn't talk about you found him in a cave, right?
mhm.
And we didn't talk about rolling a stone to cover the cave, and we're like, problem solved,
Bye. See
right?
you never.
Right. We actually did the opposite, right? It was
We
a
brought
process,
him gifts.
right? We brought him light, we brought him gifts.
Yeah.
It was not about containment, it was actually about collaboration. And
Mhm.
collaboration couldn't happen until there was a rapport, and
Yeah.
that rapport led to trust.
Yes.
But it's been such a productive process over a short period of time.
It really has. Now we're buddies.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I learned that from watching a children's show with my kids called Ninjago, which was it was a Lego series about these Lego figurines that did this fake martial arts called Ninjago and Spinjitzu. It's completely ridiculous. But the point is this, actually, okay, the show is really interesting. I'm going to get off on a little bit of a riff because there's a lot of ancient wisdom which is being snuck into children's television, and it's really fascinating to watch it.
You could write papers about this. The amount of children's TV and movies that you bring up to me is incredible. The fact that I can see you're really watching them and you have all this knowledge to be able to connect all this wisdom in it. I love it.
And for those of you who don't know, I have four children, so I'm not just some weirdo watching children's television. It was me watching it with my kids and having discussions with them.
Yes.
But the point is that Ninjago was actually very interesting because every series they had every season they had different opponents or antagonists, and there was a whole series that had like these serpent gods, and they had Apep, and went all the way back to Egyptian mythology and Anubis, and all. I mean, like they were bringing in really deep Egyptian metaphysical ideas into the children's show. But their sensei, their Sifu, their teacher, it had sort of like a Fu Manchu vibe. It's an old Asian wise guy. And he posed a question at the beginning of an episode, which is what is what is the best way to defeat your enemy? And each of the four main characters, they have a different gift or capability. And they think it's the capability that they have, the offensive capability to defeat an enemy and totally neutralize them. And at the end, they realize that the best way to defeat your enemy is to make him into your friend.
Beautiful.
Isn't it? Because you never have to look
Beautiful.
over your shoulder again. You can look to the left or the right because who is your enemy is now your friend, and you're walking with them rather than trying to run away from them or walking towards them to confront them.
I mean, beautiful. We could just change the world with that alone.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
really could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and this is the process PSI takes us through
Yes.
to
I'll
become
tell you.
friends with all of ourselves.
Yeah. And we'll make a lot of references to Avatar, The Last Airbender, which is an incredible series. I mean, I've
The
had
movie?
my not Avatar the movie.
Okay.
It's called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay.
It was on Nickelodeon, and it, 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 I mean, the amount of wisdom in this is so incredible. I mean, there's a scene where there's this guru called Guru Patek, and he explains how the seven major chakras function in under 18 minutes. It's animated, it is so beautiful. And he talks about the emotional note of each chakra and the limiting belief which blocks it.
No.
Yes, and I
I'm
read
gonna look this up on YouTube.
it's the season, it's the season finale of season two.
Okay.
And you can watch it on Netflix. But there's an episode where, well, it's so long to explain if you haven't seen it, but the point is that one of the things I learned, so there are these hippie-like characters. They're just a band of traveling musicians and wayfarers. And one of the main characters is a very rational and kind of uptight teenager. And he always wants to solve problems rationally. And there's a series of challenges they find, and the openness and that OG, let's see what happens attitude of these wandering hippies totally saves the day. And it's really just wonderful, these little tidbits. And I'll tell you, my children all we watched this so many times, we've talked about it, and they take these lessons with them.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Wow. The kids are really getting the good programming.
they
Sounds
really
like
are. Yeah.
it gives me a lot of hope. And also makes me feel like I should be watching kids' shows.
Yes, we could have a whole thing on that.
We just break them down.
Yeah. I did a four-part series in the mosque several years ago. I was kind of I would come to give youth lectures, and we had a four-part series with free popcorn in the mosque where we showed Disney's Tangled, which is a retelling of Rapunzel.
Oh yeah, we talked about this one.
Yeah, and
So,
I
yeah.
and I interpreted in the light of Sufi teachings on love and sacrifice. And people still talk about it to this day. It was such a impactful lecture. But I mean, it's impactful because seeing a story animated in this way and
Mhm.
experiencing these transformations is what's impactful.
We might have to create a list of all your recommended movies and TV shows.
Definitely.
I think that would be a great thing for everybody to have because
People.
you've mentioned so many shows to me, and I'm like, I don't remember the last one I watched. I've got to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's catch our breath here. And thank you all for joining us for another fun conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, much love, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.